Just as Taiwan inaugurates a new president, protesters take to the street. China might be stealing AI secrets from Google, and we're still buying things made with slave labor in China. Then more on this week's China News Headlines. Welcome to China Uncensored, I'm Chris Chappell. It's official, Taiwan has a new president, and he isn't in his 70s. As an American, Taiwan, can you tell me what that's like? Lai Ching-te, or William Lai, was officially sworn into office on May 20th, making him Taiwan's 5th democratically elected president. Lai is a member of the pro-independence Democratic Progressive Party, or DPP. Like his predecessor Tsai Ing-wen, they don't want to be part of China. But in Lai's inaugural address, he did say he wants to de-escalate tensions with Beijing. Lai admitted he hopes for peace, saying that the CCP should accept Taiwan's existence as an independent nation. He also said that there were measures that China could carry out to dial back tensions, such as allowing for the resumption of tourism on a reciprocal basis. Besides that, Lai vowed to continue to improve pedestrian safety, transition to green energy, fight crime, expand Taiwan's international relationships, and, most impressively, not be almost 80 years old. Now, all of that sounds perfectly reasonable to anyone with even an ounce of sanity. So, of course, China rejected it completely, warning of reprisals against Taiwan after Lai's inauguration speech. China's so-called Taiwan Affairs Office called Lai's speech a downright confession of Taiwan independence and labeled Lai a dangerous separatist before saying there would be unspecified repercussions. My favorite state-run media, the Global Times, said that Lai will only lead Taiwan to a path of overconfidence and self-destruction. Well, if anyone would be an expert on those things, it's the Chinese Communist Party. The CCP's unspecified repercussions against Taiwan turned out to be renewed military drills, which intimidated Taiwan about as much as all the previous military drills over the course of the last decade, which is to say not much. The two-day military exercises took place all around Taiwan and also, for the first time, targeted Jinmen, Matsu, Wuqiu, and Dongying, islands under Taipei's rule but closer to the mainland. The CCP said the drills were to simulate sea-air military coordination while practicing for precision strikes. Taipei denounced the drills as irrational provocations and dispatched military forces of its own to defend the island's sovereignty. So really, it's business as usual. But actually, Taiwan is kind of in a bit of trouble. The kind of trouble that the CCP would rub its hands with glee about. China-leaning lawmakers have proposed a law that would weaken the new president by curtailing presidential powers. And massive protests broke out.
Demonstrators accused the opposition of working in concert with China, causing a democratic backslide in the island.
Taiwanese TV captured fights breaking out in parliament as the DPP attempted a filibuster.
But the DPP's hands are tied. It lost its parliamentary majority while securing victory in January elections, meaning a fractured parliament and a difficult legislative road ahead for Taiwan's new president.
Lai only won 40% of the vote in a three-way race, while the opposition, the KMT, won the speakership and the most legislative seats. So Lai was already in for a tough ride. And since China refuses to engage Lai, much as it refused to engage Tsai, the KMT, through the former chairman, Ma Ying-jeou, has been negotiating with Beijing directly. Yeah, Taiwan's got an uphill battle ahead of them. But the CCP has plenty of issues of its own to worry about as well. China is launching its own anti-dumping probe against Japan, the US, the EU, and Taiwan. The announcement came after US President Joe Biden initiated a series of tariffs on Chinese goods. The US and its allies have been worried that the CCP is flooding global markets with cheap goods in order to bolster its flailing economy. Which would make sense. China's economy is held together with duct tape right now, so it might not hold on much longer, especially if the duct tape was made in China. But after the break, is China stealing AI secrets from Google? Welcome back. Looks like the CCP is expanding its spying operations, this time to Google. An ex-Google engineer has been charged with stealing AI trade secrets on behalf of China. Chinese national Lin Wei-ding was arrested in California on 4 counts of federal trade secret theft. Each count is punishable with up to a decade in prison. I hope he's feeling lucky. For 2 years, he had been uploading hundreds of files about Google's supercomputing data centers into a personal Google Cloud account. So he tried stealing from Google and storing it with Google That's like robbing a bank safe and moving the money to another safe in the same bank. FBI Director Christopher Wray responded to the charges, saying Chinese intellectual property theft can cost jobs and have devastating economic and national security consequences. Yeah, it'd be a tragedy if American jobs were lost due to the CCP stealing AI secrets, instead of the AI replacing those jobs itself. But the espionage stories continue. A British man accused of spying for China was just found dead in a park. Matthew Trickett, a former UK Marine, was found on Sunday by police. The police say the circumstances are unknown and that they are still investigating. I assume it was natural causes. He spied for China, got compromised, and it caused his death, naturally. Trickett was one of 3 men charged last week under the UK's National Security Act with foreign interference and helping a foreign intelligence agency. None of the 3 had yet entered pleas. Chinese officials had criticized the charges as groundless and slanderous accusations. I mean, doesn't everyone know by now? The CCP is a paragon of integrity, honesty, and we definitely didn't murder him. It's just a convenient coincidence. Paragons, I tell you. But China and the UK have been having a number of spats in recent weeks relating to spying, trade, and foreign interference. And these disagreements don't just stop there. The UK Defense Minister accused China of supplying lethal aid to the Russian army. He didn't give evidence publicly to back up his claim, but pointed out that there's been a 64% increase in Russia-China trade. China's already been supplying drone parts and other small-scale military equipment to Russia for quite some time now. So it's not unthinkable that this would eventually expand to wider arms sales. And after the break, the U.S. continues to import Chinese goods made by forced labor. Welcome back. It looks like the U.S. is sadly still importing Chinese goods produced through forced labor. This wouldn't be much of a surprise. China, like many other communist and authoritarian regimes, love using forced labor. I wouldn't be surprised if childbirths there are all induced. That way, even their pregnant women can undergo forced labor. All right, I know that wasn't my best, but I'm trying to make forced labor jokes, so work with me here. Forced labor is something that can be difficult to monitor. On Monday, a report released by the Senate Finance Committee found that BMW, Jaguar, Land Rover, and Volkswagen use parts banned in the U.S. for relying on forced labor, which is one of the darker aspects in Jaguar Land Rover's histories. Volkswagen and BMW, I'm not mad, just disappointed. Again. The report was 2 years in the making, initiated by Democrats on the committee. It found that California-based Borns Inc., an auto supplier, sourced parts from Sichuan Jingweida Technology Group Company, or JWD. It then provided these components to Lear Corporation, which is a direct supplier for BMW and Jaguar Land Rover. JWD had been on the 2021 Uyghur Forced Labor Prevention Act ban list since last year. Under the terms of that act, Xinjiang-made goods cannot be imported to the U.S. unless there is proof that forced labor was not involved, which would be hard to provide since I assume even proof of no forced labor being used in Xinjiang would be provided by forced labor used in Xinjiang. The companies have since said they will stop imports of these parts and have them remanufactured after Lear sent letters to all 3 informing them of the history of these banned auto parts. And Volkswagen and BMW added, "Please don't look into our history. And don't forget the CCP isn't just targeting Uyghurs, it's targeting Tibetans too." We knew that already, but now we know even more. A new Human Rights Watch report found that China is accelerating its forced relocation plan for rural village-based Tibetans, including herders, to urban places. The CCP has defended this policy by arguing that it's part of a measure to reduce poverty and protect the environment. It also claims this is a voluntary program. Yeah, totally voluntary. They're completely free to refuse and voluntarily get disappeared against their will, willingly. Yet the report cites more than 1,000 Chinese state media reports and government publications that say otherwise. They indicate that participation in whole village relocation programs in Tibet is in effect compulsory, with many Tibetans who were asked to relocate expressing high levels of reluctance. Well, color me shocked. Official data from China says that almost 1 million Tibetans have been relocated since 2000, with 76% of them happening since 2016, which probably means it's a lot more. CCP officials have threatened the Tibetans with a cutoff to basic services if they don't move, as well as other coercive forms of punishment. Interim Director of Human Rights Watch Maya Wang said the goal is to assimilate Tibetans into Han Chinese culture and undermine their native traditions, language, and way of life. The report also found that many Tibetans have a hard time finding work after these relocations and are extremely unhappy. But unsurprisingly, the CCP is calling these reports groundless. You know, the worst part isn't the lying, it's the predictability. Oh, and the human rights abuses. The predictability and the human rights abuses are the worst part. And now, it's time for me to answer a question or comment from a member of the China Uncensored 50-Cent Army. Fans who support the show on the crowdfunding website, patreon.com/China Uncensored. And today's comes from M. We're all very grateful for your years and years of work, Chris and CU team. Well, thank you very much from me and everyone on the team. You know, I started the show at the end of 2012. As you can tell, I've aged a bit. But in that time, the show has managed to do some incredible things. Travel to the disputed territory China and the Philippines are fighting over. Cover the 2014 Hong Kong protests and 2019 protests. And just recently, I found out that retired Colonel Grant Newsham testified to Congress and basically said China Uncensored is doing a better job than the US government at telling the American people about the threat of the CCP. In his written testimony, he wrote, "Private outlets such as China Uncensored are excellent at educating large audiences about PRC malign affairs and the need to do something about them. These shows are factual, informative, produced on a shoestring budget, have nearly 2 million subscribers, and the Chinese government hates them. And I've got a major project coming up that I think all of you are really going to love. But I wouldn't have made it here today if it weren't for your support. I'm not exaggerating when I say YouTube has been trying to run us out of business for years. The only reason there's still a China Uncensored today is because of support from viewers like you on Patreon. That makes up the vast majority of the budget. Visit patreon.com/China Uncensored. All it takes is $1 an episode. I make about 16 episodes a month, but if that's too much for you, you can set a monthly limit. So you can ensure I can keep uncensoring China for even $1 a month. So thank you for your support, M, and thank you for watching. Click that orange button to join M on Patreon. I also have a new gaming channel devoted to news, politics, and philosophy. Check out the latest about what the bottle cap currency of the Fallout series can teach us about the US dollar. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. See you next time.